Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope you're having fantastic Wednesdays wherever you may be across this great country or across this great world. We got a lot of different stories to get to. Want to let you know right off the top, all of my gambling picks, I've got 17 of them, are up on Outkick today. You can go dive in and make your wagers as you get ready for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as well. I hope all of you are having fantastic Wednesdays, fantastic weeks. Tomorrow, college football will officially be underway. We'll do a gambling special preview. Obviously, you can also watch me on Lock It In, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific, and you can always hear me from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. We just added 102.5 FM in Philadelphia to the roster in the morning show. Lots of expansion there. There is a lot to be happy about in that arena. But 4 big stories I want to hit today. Demarcus Cousins threatens to put a bullet in the head of his baby mama. Gronk suggests that maybe he's going to be back. I think he's going to come back potentially this season. Carli Lloyd made one 55-yard field goal in a practice after running up like she was doing a kickoff, and people have lost their minds. And Antonio Brown and continues to take shots at people, now saying he never liked Ben Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown, great example of how social media can destroy a brand as much as it can actually help. All right, Demarcus Cousins. Demarcus Cousins was getting married recently, and he was upset because his 7-year-old's baby mama would not allow him the 7-year-old to come to the wedding. Demarcus Cousins, in audio that was posted by TMZ, which has not been refuted as being inauthentic, says, "Will you please let him go to the wedding?" And then when she says no, he immediately flips and says, essentially, "I'm going to put an effing bullet in your head then." TMZ has the full audio. I think we could probably clip it and share it for people out there who have not heard it, that particular aspect. His baby mama is at a jump house, which if you're a parent, you know exactly what a jump house is. And as a result, I am kind of stunned by the crickets that have greeted this story. Demarcus Cousins is one of the 40 or 50 best players, at least in the last several years in the NBA. Now, granted, he's injured, but the fact that this isn't a bigger story, if an NFL player did this, it would be everywhere. Yet the NBA, I believe, remains protected by and large by the media. If one of the 40 or 50 best players in the NFL was on an audio recording threatening to put a bullet in someone's head, just look at what happened with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was public enemy number 1 the minute that his audio came out. It was a lead story for a long time, months. Demarcus Cousins' story has already kind of vanished, and I'm curious why the media protects the NBA in a way that it doesn't the NFL. It's kind of crazy. Now, I know the NFL is a bigger brand and gets more attention than the NBA in general, but NBA people always want to talk about how off the field, outside of the court stories the NBA dominates. The NBA gets no criticism here. Now, I have my own history with Demarcus Cousins. You may remember my history with Demarcus Cousins. While he got kicked out of a Vanderbilt-Kentucky game for technical fouls years ago, I tweeted that I thought Demarcus Cousins was going to get arrested within 5 years. And then I don't ever delete any tweets, so somebody went back through there, sent it to Demarcus Cousins, and he retweeted it. When I put that out there, when I put the Demarcus Cousins out there, that tweet, which was a huge story like 3 or 4 years ago, a bunch of media members who cover the NBA sent me direct messages saying, "Dude, instead of donating $5,000 to his charity," which is what I did, and making fun of myself for being wrong, what you should have done is gone double or nothing. And I think this would have counted because it's still under the 10-year window. And she says now that she also went in and says that he has choked her. And so this is pretty ridiculous stuff. Some people are out there defending Demarcus Cousins. They're saying, well, he didn't actually put a bullet in her head. He just said he would do it, which is utterly ridiculous because, I don't know about you, But I've managed to live my entire life without threatening to shoot anyone in the head for any reason at all. Maybe you can call me a hero if you would like. You can say that I am the greatest human being to ever live. Maybe that's a rarity. Maybe few men have actually managed to be able to accomplish that. But I am quite proud to say that as your resident hero here, I have never threatened to put a bullet into any man or any woman's head while disagreeing with them about anything. Also, I understand that people have disputes over custody. But if you are Demarcus Cousins, why can't you be smarter here? Pick a wedding time when you have custody of your 7-year-old. Think about that. I know this is going to blow some people's minds. You have the entire summer off. At some point, you have to have your son with you. You get those visits and those schedules scheduled long in advance instead of having to ask her permission to have your son attend your wedding. Why don't you just do something crazy like pick a time to have the wedding when you already have your son in custody? So if you're not getting along with the baby mama, you don't have to involve her at all and allow her to be an obstacle towards your wedding. This doesn't seem like an insanely difficult thing to think of. In fact, it would be my number one problem-solving suggestion to anyone out there who is divorced, has a spouse that you do not get along with, regularly fights over custody issues. If you have a big event that you would like your child to be able to attend, and you know that if you otherwise don't have custody of that child, your spouse, ex-spouse, your baby mama is unlikely to allow it. Crazy suggestion here. Why don't you just make the decision, which I think is an easy and a good one, to have the wedding when you already have custody of the kid? Crazy idea, I know, solves all of these issues. But I'm looking forward to everyone out there showing up and apologizing to me for having the audacity to predict that somebody like Demarcus Cousins, who doesn't seem to ever be in control of his emotions, might actually make bad decisions off the court. Again, the allegations, he hasn't denied that that's him on the tape. To me, the solution here is easy. The LA Lakers should release him. I'm big when it comes to analyzing problems versus talent, right? If you analyze problems versus talent, my general position is so long as your talent exceeds your problems, you will always be employed. Demarcus Cousins is out for the entire year with an injury. He was already signed at a low-budget price because he's become a low-budget basketball player. Why, if you are Jeannie Buss and you own the LA Lakers, would you not go ahead and kick him off the team and not allow him to represent your team any longer? I understand why, for instance, the Chiefs kept Tyreek Hill. It was because they believed his talent exceeded his problems. But here, Demarcus Cousins is making $3 million and change. He's not going to play for you all year. Why would you allow that guy to continue to represent your organization and your franchise when his talent is over, when his health is broken, and when something else worse might happen as you conduct this investigation? Interesting thoughts. Should be the move that the Lakers make. They only signed him to a one-year deal. They need to get rid of him. And again, I look forward to everybody who criticized me for predicting that Demarcus Cousins would make bad decisions in his professional life for apologizing to me and saying, you know what, Clay Travis, we're sorry. You were right all along. Will be intriguing to see what exactly happens there. Rob Gronkowski came out to talk about how much he loves cannabis oil. I don't know what cannabis oil does exactly. I haven't used it. But he is a big fan of it. He says his health is better. And I think if you watched and listened to the audio, which we may be able to insert a little bit of the audio here, I think Rob Gronkowski is going to come back and play with the New England Patriots again, just like I feel like Andrew Luck will come back and play for the Indianapolis Colts again as well. So the upshot here is that I think the statements that Rob Gronkowski made yesterday are very strong indications that he'll come back. I actually even think he could come back this year. The Patriots have a bye week on November 10th. I think there's a good chance that Gronk comes back to finish out the season and be ready for the playoffs and try to win another Super Bowl. That is my prediction right now. I put up a poll question. 20,000 of you voted. It's amazing how many of you believe the surface level explanations oftentimes. 75% of you said you do not believe Rob Gronkowski will come back. I'm on the side of the 25% there. I think that Rob Gronkowski will, in fact, come back. All right, this story is blowing my mind. Carli Lloyd kicked a 55-yard field goal at practice. I believe it was at the Baltimore Ravens facility. And people have lost their mind over the idea that now she could be an NFL kicker if she wanted to be an NFL kicker. This, to me, is no different than somebody who's a star showing up at training camp and, at batting practice and hitting a home run during batting practice, and everybody suddenly saying, oh my God, this person is capable of hitting a home run, they should go play Major League Baseball. Or Tim Tebow, for instance, showing up at a PGA event and hitting the ball 400 yards on a drive, which he can do on occasion, and people saying, oh, Tim Tebow should go be a PGA Tour professional. We are in a world of woke media where truth tellers are afraid of telling the truth because they are afraid that they might end up being a target of a mob. Carli Lloyd has a 0% chance of legitimately playing as a kicker in the NFL. Let me repeat that, a 0% chance. Now, she might get to come in a preseason game because nobody else is paying attention and they don't really try that hard, and they might let her line up and make a field goal, and I think that she could potentially do that in an NFL preseason game, but it would be a stunt, like when a famous person gets to play in a league or a game that is not at all representative of the real game itself. Look, Carli Lloyd is 5'7", 140 pounds. Martin Gramatica, who so far as I know is the smallest NFL player that I can remember in my life, was 5'8", 170 pounds. So he was taller and weighed substantially more than Carli Lloyd, and he looked like a kid on the football field when he was in a uniform. You remember Martin Gramatica? He would always jump around and pump his fist crazily every time he made a field goal. Yes, he looked like a jockey compared to everybody else on the football field. Can you imagine what would happen if Carli Lloyd at 5'7" and 140 pounds had on shoulder pads and a full football uniform? She would look ridiculous. It would look like the most absurd stunt you have ever seen. On top of that, imagine what would happen to her if, as seems likely, she attempted several field goals. One of them would get blocked. And not only would it get blocked, but she would then get broken by all of these huge NFL linemen who are bigger, stronger, and faster than her. God forbid she tried to pick up a football and tried to run with it in some direction or tried to make a play at all. You're eliminating any possibility of a fake every time she comes on the field, which means that everybody could sell out because there's no way at all that she's going to run with the ball or throw it or do anything of an athletic degree from a kicking perspective. What's more, is she going to kick off? Is she going to try to kick cover on kickoffs? Can you imagine how much she would get flattened there? This is an absurd and ridiculous position that otherwise intelligent people seem emboldened to take because they're afraid of stepping astride the oncoming velocity and ferocity of the U.S. women's team national fans. It's great that Carli Lloyd is a good soccer player. She would get destroyed if she attempted to play NFL football in any kind of way. Also, it's insulting to all of the people who dedicate their entire lives to becoming kickers to presume that she, at the age of 37 or 38, having barely ever kicked a football or ever attempted field goals, is suddenly going to be better than grown-ass men who've been trying for decades to perfect the art of field goal kicking. This is just one of the most ridiculous arguments I have ever seen in the history of hypothetical sports arguments. Anyone with a functional brain who believes that Carli Lloyd could make it as an NFL kicker is incapable of actually using the logic inside of their head, because this is a 0% chance. Now, she's welcome to try it. The NFL is a meritocracy. She is welcome to try to become a kicker. She has a 0% chance of becoming a legitimate kicker. She would look absurd at 5'7", 140 pounds on an NFL football field. Kicking is incredibly hard to do, and there are hundreds of people competing at a high level to try to do it. Now, if a woman is ever going to make it as a kicker, it's going to be in college first, because in college, every 4 years, you need a brand new circuit of kickers, and there are over 100 teams that need constantly new kickers, and there are multiple kickers on every team and everything else. But the idea that suddenly she's going to be one of the 32 best field goal kickers in the world at the age of 38, after hardly ever attempting field goals in her entire life, is one of the most patently absurd arguments that I've ever heard anybody in the world of media or fandom adopt. Again, more power to her. Chase your dreams. Do it whatever you want. You have a 0% chance of succeeding with this one. And I think this is 100% a function of people not being willing to stand up and say, you know what, this is a ridiculous idea. Much like when someone hits a home run in batting practice, or when someone hits like a 350-yard drive, just because you have the skill to do something once doesn't mean you have the skill to do it over and over and over and over again. And Carli Lloyd has some ridiculous quotes out there. She said, anything I put my mind to, I can do. This is not true, all right? This is one of the great fallacies that you are taught and that we're teaching kids today. You cannot do anything that you put your mind to. I would love to be able to dunk a basketball. I can put my entire mind towards being able to dunk a basketball, and I'm not going to be able to do it. I would like to be more talented at writing than William Shakespeare. I can put my entire mind towards being a better writer than Shakespeare, and I'm not going to be able to do it, all right? Committing to being great and or good at something is important, but what is more important is understanding that you can't be great at everything, finding what you are good at, and channeling your talents towards being great at it, all right? Everybody is not equally talented in everything. In fact, if you are born today and you are under 6 feet tall, your chances of playing in the NBA one day are virtually zero. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how much time you spend perfecting your art. Your chances based on your physical creation at birth are virtually zero, all right? So this idea that anything I put my mind to is just pure BS that is being spun out there into the ether, and the fact that a 37-year-old woman would say it and nobody would call her on it is crazy. Compare this, by the way. Compare the response to Carli Lloyd towards the response to Tim Tebow when he decided to play baseball. Tim Tebow is at least an incredible athlete, and he had played baseball up all the way through high school and done it at such a high level that he would have been drafted. And people lost their minds when Tim Tebow decided that he wanted to play baseball. Absolutely lost their minds. When Michael Jordan decided that he wanted to play baseball, people absolutely lost their minds and said that the decision was crazy. Tim Tebow and Michael Jordan are two of the greatest athletes, male athletes of their generation, just attempting to move into another sport which they have played before. Carli Lloyd has never played football. She's never had pads. She's never had a helmet on. And she made a field goal running all the way up like it was a kickoff. And people are acting like she is a legitimate threat to be an NFL kicker. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. All right, Antonio Brown. Social media is not always a good thing for athletes to embrace. If you are a superstar athlete, in fact, I would argue that social media creates more problems for you than it does solutions, okay? Antonio Brown is the latest example of this. Antonio Brown has now gone off on Ben Roethlisberger and said, We were never friends. It was basically a business relationship. Who cares, first of all? This is very, very high school. Once you get out of high school, the idea that you talk about who you're friends with is such a pathetic loser thing to do. All right? You know how many friends I got? One. My wife. I got 3 kids. I barely have time to do anything. All right? I don't care if people like me. I don't care if they consider me their friend or not. I don't have time to sit around and worry like I'm 14 years old in high school who my friends are. Okay? I'm not having birthday parties where I only get to bring one friend over. And I'm not sitting around like a girl with a My Little Pony notebook writing down all her friends in order and then crossing them off like a mean girl as things go wrong with them. This is absurd. Antonio Brown has lost his mind. I legitimately believe that Antonio Brown has lost his mind. Whether it's driving 100 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, whether it was throwing all the things off the balcony, whether it was dyeing his mustache gold, whether it was showing up at camp in a hot air balloon, the helmet issues, getting frostbite in France in a cryotherapy chamber. All of these things are absurd, ridiculous, indefensible decisions that Antonio Brown has made, including walking out of practice on Wednesday and showing up on Sunday and expecting to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers' final game of the year when they were attempting to qualify for the playoffs. All of these are ridiculous, bad decisions that suggest to me that Antonio Brown has got something wrong mentally with himself. Juju Smith-Schuster, he went on social media and posted a great message from Juju, which was just requesting help from him and saying how much he admired Antonio Brown when Juju Smith-Schuster was still in college. This is what you would encourage college kids to do. Reach out to people who inspire you, who are talented in the field that you are pursuing, and ask them for their advice if they look at what you are doing on the field. He posted as if it's a bad thing for Juju Smith-Schuster. Now he's going on saying, I was never friends with Ben Roethlisberger. Well, that would probably be a surprise to your young kids who knew Ben Roethlisberger well enough to, on the show as we began the Raiders season on HBO on Hard Knocks, you had Antonio Brown's little kids standing there saying, where is Big Ben? Where is Big Ben? He's in Pittsburgh, which is a good team, which is in a different area than where your dad is in Oakland, which is on a bad team. Your old man's lost his mind. Get him off social media. He's saying stupid things all the time. Again, social media benefits people on the fringes of stories, whether it's the president of the United States, Donald Trump, or anybody else who's in a superstar role. You don't benefit from social media. Andrew Luck wasn't on social media. He dominated news stories for the past couple of weeks, and now certainly has dominated the news story all week. Peyton Manning, not on social media. Michael Jordan, not on social media. Charles Barkley, not on social media. You don't need to be on social media if you are a superstar. Stories find you. You don't need to create them. Baker Mayfield, I feel the same way, should be off social media. There's almost nothing to be gained unless you run your social media account effectively as a PR account. And that's fine if you do that, but you need to be careful even with what you put out there. Antonio Brown has been hurt in a big way by his persona on social media. All right, love all you guys. I got to go do Lock It In here in about an hour. My name is Clay Travis. You can watch us on FS1, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, 2:30 Mountain, 1:30 Pacific. I'll be live from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Just recorded a podcast with Colin Cowherd. It'll be up on Wins and Losses on Sunday for your Labor Day weekends if you're driving around or you're going to college football games. Also, Rachel Bonetta is up this week, and it is fantastic. Trust me on it. It is really, really, really an entertaining podcast. She was fantastic. I love all of you. Have great Wednesdays. Get ready for college football. Go bet all the games I gave you out. 17 winners. This has been Outkick. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.